Hello, everyone, and welcome to PCP No Boosters Needed. This is the episode where we talk about the December tournament and how fun that was, the last one of 2024. I am Juhadre, and joining me, as usual, are VG Shazbot and Xeno and the Snurks. Hey, guys.
Hey there.
Hello.
Alrighty, so we've got a lot, and unfortunately, not all of it is in regard to PLC as a whole. But first, I want to say welcome to 2025, a new year for League of Legends, a new year for the PLC. I almost called it the PCP, but I guess it's a new year for PCP as well.
Yeah, new year, new league.
Welcome to Noxus, right? that's so, the new theme.
Yes, and I do want to get to that, but I want to talk about our last tournament so that we get all of that information at the front of the episode. And then if people are not interested in our opinions on the map and welcome to Noxus, then they can go off from there. But we do have really interesting things to talk about for our tournament. Last month, we did make a change, right? We were adjusting our format. We finally did it, and we had our semifinals. Xeno and I did our mini-sode where we talked a bit about it, but Shazbot, as a player and in that realm, how do you think the change was received?
I thought it was pretty good. I don't think I could not attend the last tournament, so I didn't get to quite to see the effects, but I like the idea on paper, and I didn't hear any complaints. So, but that's not necessarily that they didn't exist.
I will say, Xeno, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, there was definitely no complaining on the Twitch chat end, which, shows us that things were better received this time around overall. And while no format's perfect, it was our attempt to be able to appeal both to the people who are there for more casual fun, wanting to get in multiple league games, while also appealing to the more competitive side of our tournament for the people that, want a chance to get that number one spot, where instead of taking the top two positions, we take the top four. So I think we're doing a better job of finding that balance with this new format.
I concur. All right. And guys, I was watching over our playoffs. I get to call them playoffs now instead of just our finals. And I was laughing and just so excited. I mean no disrespect to any other tournaments that we've been able to run, but this was the most fun that I've had rewatching our playoffs.
It was pretty hype.
It was so cool. And I think a big part of it, I have a note here that the more I play, the longer I watch these things, it feels like higher ranked players just don't take the same amount of damage that I do. And in our playoffs, there were at least 7 times where people should have just died. They should have. There were executes, or they were standing amidst 3 enemies at 20 health and just walked away. Not flashed, not anything. I just walked away. And after I wrote that down, I was listening to the cast, and I mentioned that there were another 9 times where people just should have died. Even an inhibitor, it was in the finals, an inhibitor got down to 20 health, and then it just didn't take that last hit. The last caster minion auto didn't go through, or the last jinx bullet or something, and just they didn't die.
Yeah, and I would love for us to have claimed that we reduced the damage by 90% just for the tournament, but I don't think any of us are that skilled, especially with like league code as spaghetti-ified as it is. But yeah, it was a very hype. It felt like people were just walking around in their lanes with like 100 or 200 health, and it's like, go back! Like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah,
it was very fun, very fun. Yeah,
that's the thing though, is that with the proper setups and everything, you can get away with a lot of stuff. For example, with the existence of some of the, oh gosh, I can't think of the name, but it's the green resolve. Some of the resolve
Mhm.
runes
Mhm.
that'll help you survive with that stacked on top of health potions. You can survive for quite a while, especially if you know your enemy's cooldowns and damage.
And that's true. I guess I just don't understand those intricacies as well as others, but everyone please take the time to go through those games because they are doozies. I remember very clearly in the beginning of the Swiss stage, first two games or so, that I just lost it, just completely screaming, losing my mind. It was a wild, wild time, and I think it was one of our best tournaments we've ever thrown. So that's all available on our YouTube. Please check it out. You won't be disappointed.
And I highly recommend the finals. Semifinals and
Mm.
finals are very good as well.
So speaking of those, our semifinals, we weren't able to stream both of them like I claimed in our last PCP episode, and for that I sincerely apologize. However, we did get two repeat matches, which will help us understand what probably went on during the game we didn't get to stream. They were the Fallen Guys versus Circus in Town, as well as Mithril Knights versus Salt Lake Community College. And not all, three of these four teams were technically repeat teams. I know that Slick's roster changed. The Fallen Guys from the Fall Guys, that I think they had two of their former members. Mithril Knights came in for the second time after getting, I want to say, third or fourth place in the, what was that month? November tournament. But then Circus in Town was brand new. So impressions from you guys about the semifinals, those matchups, and what you expected when we got to that point.
Yeah, for me, it was just really cool to see those different teams go against each other and also see new players come forth and be able to show off their skills. I was very impressed by Circus and Town's, ability to play. Like they just came in swinging and were ready to aim for that crown, and they took it. It was really cool to see that and just to see the build up to it.
And I like
concur.
that no one was the obvious winner. It, like especially semifinals. You know, a little spoilers if you had planned to watch it, but you had your chance. It was like there's a like top lane especially was very swingy. Like it seemed like at one point I believe it was the Mbessa who got ahead early, but then Camille was able to hold it together, was able to roam correctly and really bring the game around. You'll have to forgive me. It's been a little bit since I watched the game, but very, very hype. Very enjoyable game.
So while we're talking about that one, that was the Fallen Guys versus Circus in Town. That one is the semifinal that's on the YouTube channel. Everyone, please watch that, and I'm going to give you something to watch for. At 24 minutes and 20 seconds, there is a fight up near the top side that leads to the entire end of the game. And it's this sequence of like 12 minutes that never stops. And as play-by-play caster, that's really exciting for me, but it's also a shame because we don't get a chance to hear Broden's thoughts as much as we're going through it. And the action is bananas.
Yeah.
And then, so like I said, it's about 12 minutes leading to the end of the game, but that's where everything starts to shift. There's another point at 27 minutes and 18 seconds, and this is video time, by the way, not game time, video time. That is pure tragedy. Like it literally changed. I said this was game changing, but this moment, the moment at 27:18, that play just broke my heart. I remember watching it during the cast and being flabbergasted at how it happened and what came after, and then rewatching it a month later, it literally broke my heart again after it had finally healed. Like I didn't realize that it was broken until it happened again. I was like, oh yeah, Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah, pretty bad. On a total side note, really enjoy listening to Proden, even if that's just because he agrees with my Aurora change analyses.
He does.
He's a really good guy.
And he's a very big Aurora fan. He's been using that to climb, doing really well. We played a game with him the other night, and he carried the 4 heavy people that were on his team. It was real brutal. I felt so bad.
I think I was on that team too. So
I think you were, yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Like, you owe it to yourself. Go watch some great games of League of Legends. It was, and then tune into our next one. It should be very pretty good as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, and rewatching games can be great for both casual viewers and for the competitive viewers. Use that as an opportunity to go and rewatch matches you were taking a part in. See where the enemies you were playing against made mistakes and how you can capitalize against that next time, or even analyze your own mistakes and figure out ways to strengthen them and overcome them.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shawspot.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the things that I'm doing personally for my own, I follow this guy who's a coach that does, he's called Bach, B-O-C, and he recommends doing like a Google spreadsheets and tracking down the games you did and taking some brief notes so that you can kind of find trends. What people are you actually losing to? What's your win rate? We find that op.gg doesn't keep a long history on that kind of stuff, so keeping it yourself is very useful. And that counts for tournament games. And I would note in those spreadsheet cells that they are tournament games. And how do you perform in tournament games? What are your thoughts directly after a tournament game? Some big thoughts lately.
Okay, yeah, actually, I appreciate that advice, Shazbot. So even though I'm not big on playing like League competitively, I like to play it more for fun and everything. There is a fighting game that I like to play extremely competitively, and I'm currently ranked 17 in the world with my specific character, so that can help me get to that top 10 spot I'm aiming for.
Right. And specifically to find things to look to improve on. This is your discovery phase, if you will. Yeah.
Very good. Well, guys, before we start on our finals, I want to make a note that this was the first time that we did not see the Fall Guys in the finals.
True. Well,
and it's the first time Team Unknown didn't make the finals.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, man.
So it's so funny. I was listening back on our November talk, or our November episode, I should say, and we said that they were always there. They have always made finals. Anytime they're in the tournament, those two teams have made it, and they didn't this time, and it was eye-opening. It is good to see, and we're growing, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just an opportunity for growth and showing that we're growing in different ways, but it's also an opportunity for growth for the players as well, which I think is another giant benefit of the PLC, is it gives players an opportunity to personally grow and improve themselves.
And to adapt to changing rosters. I think that's one of the reasons why they ended up where they did, because we had the split off with the Outplayed by Minions from Team Unknown, and then the Fallen guys only having 2 of the original 5 members. So I think that might have played a little into it. It's just an interesting thing to bring up, not to take away from anyone on Mithril Knights or Circus in town, because they definitely earned their spot. They played very, very well. But it's just an interesting fact, something that will go into the stats for the rest of PCP, or gosh, I keep doing that, PLC history.
And I hope I like a shakeup. I love an underdog story. I love seeing someone come back. I don't like a one-sided anything. And so, we miss you guys, Team Unknown. Get back in there. Fall Guys. You've always been a lot of fun to watch. Let's get back in there, guys. Whatever the coaches say. I've been in athletics all my life. Can't you tell?
No. So our final was Mithril Knights versus Circus in Town, and I wrote down a few notes while I was watching over the game. And the thing about the Mithril Knights is they seem to trust, quote unquote, the system. They put together a team composition in both of the games that was, I want to say, traditional. Just the way that they draft a composition. You know, you've got your healthy, tanky player up on the top side, an assassin-like jungler, some kind of mage, or a mage in the middle, and your healer with your marksman. It's a very traditional team composition, and they play textbook League of Legends. And it's not, I don't mean that in the way of saying they're boring. What I'm saying is they have a plan, and they play to that plan, and they really trust it.
Good fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when I watched Circus in Town, they had this really intense understanding of when to disengage. At the top of the episode, I talked about people getting away with really low health. These guys did probably 70% of that through the tournament. They just did not die. The Ezreal in particular from Circus in Town was bananas. Truly, truly bananas. He was playing so well. He had a Trinity Force before 10 minutes.
Goodness.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And for those unfamiliar with why that's important, it's one of the most expensive items in the game. I'm pretty sure it is, isn't it?
It was for a while. I don't know if it still is.
Well, the wiki will know.
And the wiki will know.
I want to say there's one that's 3,600, but I might be misremembering. Oh yeah,
So-
Rabadons.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
There's but it's one thing though, like I think it's one of the sillier streamers like Tyler One or something like that says that the most important thing you can do in your league games is not die, which you know forehead, it's that easy. But really and truly, like being out of the game for 10-15 seconds, being displaced back to your base, like there's nothing going on in your base until the end of the game. Like stop going there unless you really need to. You know, the minion gold, the XP, the amount of gold and XP you gave to the person who killed you. Not dying is a surprisingly important part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Big shot.
Go ahead.
If you think about it, your very first death in the game, assuming you haven't gotten a shutdown or anything, is 300 extra gold to the enemy, and then you know, even when you're performing well and getting ahead, you're building up that bounty against yourself, which makes it even more important to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
There is a concept in another game I play, an action RPG, and he says that town is lava for the exact reasons that Shazbot you brought up. If you're not in the lane, if you're not around minions dying, you're losing experience. It's more than just time, right? There are so many other things on the map that are worth doing and being around that dying is that critical.
And I think that goes contrary to the solo kill mentality or the solo queue mentality of going for kills, the flashy plays, like sticking to fundamentals. Like, sure, there are moments to put it all on the line, but they should be calculated. That, you know, I feel like my theme as a caster, as a player, is like there are reasons to do things, but you should not be doing anything casually. You should be the captain of your own ship and pilot that such that you are choosing when to go in. You're choosing when to go for kills. You are choosing when you die, which sounds ridiculous, but it's what you need to be doing to get better at League.
And that is definitely what Circus in Town did. They had the on the razor's edge. Seriously, I highly recommend you go watch these games with them in them, because it's crazy how often they really should have lost all of their health, but they didn't. And the games themselves were very exciting. The action just didn't stop. Another comment I made on the cast was just how often these guys, every team that comes in falls into the PLC classic of let's just fight. And they all do it. We all do it. And the action never stops. And it's highly entertaining.
Super fun.
All right. Any other thoughts on our finals, or do we just leave it off there with a big congratulations to Circus in Town as being our champions? We didn't even say that yet. Circus in Town won. Good for them.
Yeah.
Well played to everybody else, Mithril Knights especially making it to the finals as well. But any other thoughts before we move on?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
All right. Then while we were talking, I did look at our items list on the wiki, and there are 3 items that are more expensive than Trinity Force. And I think another 3 or 4 that are only 33 gold less. But that's okay.
Yeah,
it's still impressive.
Right.
Okay. And then with that, I think that we move into what Shazbot brought up. Welcome to Noxus.
Yeah. That's the thing that's in the forefront of my mind. There's a lot of changes. Preseason here. We got a brand new boss monster on the map. Like this is a big time for League of Legends. And I was kind of laughing to myself, we restrict new champions for 2 weeks. Sorry, we can't restrict Noxus for the next tournament. It's here. So
that's true.
But you better learn it quick, because the people who can learn it the fastest are going to have the most impact in our next tournament.
So let's talk about some of the changes, because fundamental differences to the Rift have come into play. Like Shazbot, you said, there is a new boss. There are new interactions with summoner spells. There are new runes and a new system with our Nexus turrets. So I put a list of them here on my notes. Just go down in release order. These are all in the patch notes, everyone, by the way. You can leagueoflegends.com and find the patches, and you can actually read along as we touch each subject. So the first one is Atakan. It's a new epic monster that will spawn right in the mouth of the river on either top or bottom lane, depending on where the most people have died.
Yeah, he's 10 mana, and he'll take the power of all the other minions that you have on the oh, sorry, that's the card game. But seriously, it is kind of cool from a lore side to see something from the card game finally come to League of Legends. So.
Oh, was he in the card game?
Yeah.
Oh.
Everyone needs to go play the card game. Oh, it's such a good game. But seriously, like it really is kind of cool, because his lore and his card art are pretty interesting there. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm. So he spawns at 20 minutes, and what that does is it pushes Rift Herald a little earlier and Baron a little later. And you fight over this, and there are 2 different versions of him that will spawn, and when you kill him, you get one of 2 immediate buffs. And I admit that I read through but did not memorize what those 2 are.
Yeah.
If either of you have a very quick, 6-second explanation of what the 2 are, I think we do with that. Otherwise, just read it on the patch notes when you have the time.
One is Voracious. It gives you some extra gold on takedowns and extra blood petals, I believe it is. And then the other one is Ruinous. And they get, I think, a bunch of blood petals, if I remember correctly. Blood petals being another resource that will spawn in your lane. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit after a kill, but blood petals are very important to the Otacon buffs. Please note that the Otacons on the map behave differently. They spawn in different conditions, either being like a more passive game where not a lot of blood has been spilt, or a more kill heavy game where Voracious will, or actually, I don't know which one's there's a lot to memorize, like I said. So
Voracious also has a very interesting second element to it that I think makes it more impactful, in my opinion. And that's also if you die after gaining the Voracious buff, you'll enter stasis for 2 seconds, then return to base after 3.5 seconds. and the enemy team only gets 100 gold and 1 blood petal for killing you.
So, talk to me about the timing on that. If you're in stasis for 2 seconds and then an additional 3.5 seconds to get back to your base, what happens in that limbo of time, or are you just hanging out there for 5.5 seconds?
If you think of the timing, it's really just like a teleport back to your base. And you know, I really have to thank you, Zeno. I telling you, there's too much to remember about all this. But instead of knocking you out for 20 seconds, 30 seconds at that stage of the game, you're just recalling. Basically, it's just a forced recall, and the less amount of money that they get means that you can go for more bombastic plays. You don't have to, and you're that much harder to dive at that point. But you can. You have that option now for the next 150 seconds to do some crazy tower dives, because going 1 for 1 is severely in your favor.
That's true. All right. Any other thoughts on Noxus? Or Noxus Otacon is what I meant to say.
No, not on Otacon, but I do have thoughts on another aspect of Noxus, assuming we're going to discuss it.
So it occurred to me just now that my other thought is we're only going to get one version of Otacon in the PLC. Can we all just agree on that?
Yeah,
I kill one.
Yeah, there is 0% chance that we will ever get the low kill one. It just doesn't happen.
It's true. So true. Our 20 kills in 5 minutes. Yeah,
it's bananas, man.
Another thing about Otacon is that the side he spawns on is also dependent upon like how much kills are going on which side of the map.
So
that'll be something to watch for sure.
I know this won't happen in our tournament, but do you guys remember the Worlds game where First Blood was at 23 minutes?
No. Oh my goodness. I missed that one.
Yeah, that happened. So where does Otacon spawn in that scenario?
That's a good question. I'm sure they just coin flip, or they have some sort of like tiebreaker, because in the game, I don't think you're meant to be, okay, there's been 9 kills top lane and 7 kills bot lane, so now we can start positioning towards top lane. I think it's just more like I'm sure you could do that, but I think it's just more that you need to be ready to swing to that side of the map. Maybe it is easier to predict than I'm giving it credit, but anyways.
Yeah, or maybe on the objectives, did all 6 Void Grubs get taken, or did we take 3 Drakes? I don't know.
Right.
So the next thing on the list here, reading down the patch notes, is respawning Nexus turrets. And
yes,
guys, I am a huge fan of this. I have wanted something like this for a long time. I played a different MOBA way back, like 2013, 2014, and all of their towers respawned. And it was a really cool mechanic because you couldn't just... Inhibitors respawn, fine, but then the defenses come back up and it makes it harder to get back into the base. It's a much longer game, a cool strategy, helps with turtling up. And with the way that the Baron buff and Otacon are introduced, I don't think that this will increase game times too much, and I love it.
So one thing to note about that, it takes 3 minutes to respawn. So it's not like backdoors aren't going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like this is the a level 6 Karthus ulti amount of time between Nexus turrets. Like they'll come back, but that is a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to see it changed. I kind of was hoping it would be a little bit more aggressive than that, but that's okay. We have it. I'm happy.
They also have visual indicators on those turrets now to let you know when they're going to respawn.
Ooh.
Good to know.
That's good. See, in my games, we don't lose turrets and then have to fight more. So I don't know how beneficial that will be to me, but I like that it's in the game, and I hope I get to see those timers at least once before Noxus is over, because it is only a third of the year. Okay, the next one is Feats of Strength. And I have a note here. We all know they wanted to say feat spelled F-E-E-T because it all applies to boots upgrades.
Right. Oh man, I should have seen that coming.
Yeah. I mean, Freak's on the development team. No, he's just on champion balance, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, anyway, the first of all, Zephyr is gone. You cannot upgrade your Berserker's Greaves into Zephyr anymore, but instead there are what are called feats of strength, and if you get 2 of them, you get an automatic upgrade to your boots, and at 2 legendary items after that, you can upgrade them a second time. So too many individual details to go over here. Just understand that they did the typical Riot thing and they overdid it. And at the very top of the patch notes, there are adjustments for every single boots upgrade.
Right. But I will say, as a concept for gameplay, I didn't know how I felt about it until I played my first game. And the last, both teams had 1 feat of strength. And circling around what in our case happened to be first tower was so tense and made the games a lot more fun. And something that Riot's been trying to do for the longest time is make like top lane more important. Like, bot and top lane. It's not just like one epic monster is really important. As a jungler, like, you really need to balance both sides of the map now, because allowing the other team to get epic monster kills is detrimental, or being able to allow your jungler to gank a lane to get that first blood. The first 5 minutes of the game are even more important than they were last year.
While I was playing last night, I was told that even only a week in, 90% win rate for getting feats of strength.
Wow. And it doesn't feel like it should be that much, but yeah. I have my own personal thoughts. I honestly don't think we'll get into them for time as far as design decisions go, because it kind of feels bad not to be locked out of the boots. But yes, I at least initially really, really enjoyed these changes.
I'm inclined to think that the 90% win rate is less from the stat increases from the boots and more so from the fact that it's pointing to which team is currently snowballing and getting ahead.
You do have a very good point, because the feats of strength are epic monsters first blood for first turret, right? So if you take first blood, you got that extra 100 gold. To take the first turret, that means you probably got several plates and you have the pressure on the map. Epic monsters being Void Grubs or a Drake, giving you those extra 1,000 gold worth of stats or extra damage on the turrets. I can see that.
Yeah, it's like saying, what are the chances that you'll get 2 heads in 3 coins if the first one is heads? Like, you're already kind of ahead at that point.
Yeah.
It's I'm sure similar stats would be, what percentage of games are won when you get first blood. Now, I don't think that throwing away everything to try to get feats of strength is always the right choice. However, you're doing good things by going for feats of strength. It's not like doing some arbitrary get 6 cannons and then you're like, sorry guys, I can't do dragon, so because I have to go get my cannon. I really appreciate this change. We'll see if beaten and battered in 3 months if I continue to agree with myself, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the feats of strength, another healthy implementation of them, in my opinion, is it points newer players in the right direction of, okay, these are things you should be focusing on.
For sure. Yeah, great point.
Cassiopeia doesn't really benefit as much from this as other champions do, as she cannot buy boots. And I wonder if that's a champion design decision that needs to be rolled back now that so much power was put into boots, or if she retains that unique identity and just loses out on all of the other benefits. But I guess you get to build a 6th item, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
They updated Cassiopeia's passive, so like her passive is she gets 4 movement speed per level. If her team gets the feats, it's upgraded to 6 movement speed per level.
Yeah, but then you don't get the extra 10% 5% attack speed, 5 extra haste, extra magic penetration, armor, magic resistance. But the compensation for that is she can build a 6th item, which has 3 of those stats instead of only 1. So it does even out, and you are right, they did increase it. I don't know. The fact that there's only one champion who cannot buy boots makes her unique, but they've taken away all the other unique things from other champions. And maybe I'm trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
You're fine.
I kind of like it. I would not be surprised if they change it again in the future, especially if they decide to keep with this theme. Especially because Cassiopeia is a Noxus champion. Yeah. Or in Nami's case, we can call it Hats of Strength.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Okay.
it'll be fun to watch. But I don't think Cassiopeia is necessarily like limping over the finish line because of these changes.
Limping. That's funny.
That was not intentional, but all right.
Teleport has been changed, everybody.
Yep.
Instead of channeling for 6 seconds and then blinking to where you are, you teleport for 3 seconds, and then you travel for the next 4 seconds. But it scales based on distance traveled. So if you're going from fountain to fountain, it can take up to 8 seconds instead of 4.
Yeah, I don't think I've played enough with it yet, but honestly, for me, it seems fine. Like, I don't think you don't stop taking teleport. I don't think that you don't gank bot lane as a top laner. But I do think that it has more cost with it. I think it's just like it's a tax now. I don't think it like completely gimps you. However, I still need to do some experimenting with it. So take that with a grain of salt, and your mileage may vary.
As a person that plays PvE a lot, so it's very interesting because now you can use it to travel to minions and like wards again. Even like it doesn't have to be turrets at first. And on top of that, you also like it doesn't put the minion in a stasis where you can't damage it or anything. The minion can still die, and if it dies, you'll still teleport to the spot that it's indicated at.
Oh, interesting.
Good to know.
So I remember when they made the change where destroying a turret would interrupt the teleport, but minions were still unstoppable and undamageable. I remember when that change came in, and now they went the other way, where even if the thing dies, you still finish the teleport. I like that idea. I like because there was another thing where you couldn't interrupt your own teleport, because that also used to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the spell has been evolving is really interesting. My initial reaction to this was why. I didn't think it. I would have rather just increase the cooldown a little bit and just take off the unlocked portion, because I never liked that. But I'm also a top laner, not a bottom laner, constantly getting ganked by a top laner with teleport.
I also think that they've tried a lot of cooldown changes, and none of it's ever like felt good. It's kind of crazy how many like good feeling changes. Not talking about you yet, new champion. Mel, I've got a couple of gripes on how you would expect it to function, but that's okay. I think for as far as teleport and the boots changes and things like that, I think I think it's relatively harmless, and I know a bunch of players who are better than me are cringing at that statement. But I don't think it. I think it makes it less critical to take teleport without gimping teleport completely.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it. My initial reaction is I don't like it, but I don't know.
Well, you can be wrong. It'll be awesome.
I'm often wrong. I am often wrong.
Yeah, I would say.
So we have a new item that got added into the roster of items we can do. It's an AP bruiser item granting magic resistance shred. So
right.
Think of what's that thing called? Abyssal Mask, but damage instead of tank.
Yeah, this is the item that was in Arena for a while, and it felt pretty good in Arena, but also Arena is kind of weird, so I have not played with it. I forgot that they were bringing this. I need to play with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I believe it's because of the item why they adjusted Abyssal Mask recently to make it so that it's increased damage you take from magic instead of lowering your resistance. Probably because they were planning to add this.
Right.
But yeah, I think we don't have enough AP bruisers in League, so I'm a fan of Bloodletter being added in to encourage more champions to build it.
Yeah, I'm sure Amumu players are rejoicing at this. Reading its stats, this is everything an Amumu would want. So, for sure.
Health items got big nerfs. Warmog's armor got huge nerf, and I think that's. Do you guys want to talk about that for a moment or two, or do we need to get to Mel?
I liked the new things that Warmog's brought, but it was a little too good, so I understand it. So
I am a big fan of Unending Despair's changes to make it less armor focused and more so giving armor and magic resist, because I really like the healing passive on it, but I couldn't always build it if I was in an AP heavy team. So it's good that they're adjusting it to make it more available for more games.
And it's important to recognize that it has significantly less stats at the same cost. However, I will say, but the passive happens more often. But I will say that like the first couple of points of armor and magic resist that you get are more important than the later armor and magic resistance you get. So this is a much cooler, earlier purchase for a item that is focused more on team fights, because it is better the more enemy champions are nearby. So there's a lot of decision points here. It's not great for 1v1s because it gives less stats now, but it could be if your fights last 20 seconds. So anyways, very interesting changes. I definitely agree, Zeno. Good take.
Okay. Last thing before we get to Mel. Sorry guys, I know you're anticipating and we're running short on time, but they did change some runes, and the Deep Ward and Sixth Sense, Grisly Mementos, a lot of that is just vision focus. It's going to help supports and junglers get more information on the map. It's not too... It's a good change for the red section, but what I want to talk about is the change from Nullifying Orb to the Axiom Arcanist in the blue tree. I think this is borderline a mistake, but let me know your take.
Yeah, this rune is stupid broken. People use it, abuse it while you can. It's amazing on so many different champions. If your champion is ult dependent, you want this rune.
Absolutely.
I've never been a big fan of specifically targeting an ult for champs, but you know, I have not played with it enough. I don't know how busted it is. I trust Zeno. He's got good takes, so everyone go abuse it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Reading the stats, it's bananas. You get extra damage, healing, shielding, and I believe cooldown reduction on your ultimate, and every time you get a takedown with your ultimate, it reduces its own cooldown by 7%.
It's not a takedown with your ultimate, it's a takedown in general. It's 7%. So you could be participating in a team fight and then get 7% applied for each enemy champion.
That's
crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's...
So,
I think
silly.
it needs to be one or the other. Either increase damage or takedown refund. I think both is a mistake and too powerful at this point.
It feels like a keystone, frankly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Shazbot. Let's talk about Mel.
Okay, hold on. Back up. I'm not that opinionated on the Mel. There's been a lot of outcry on having a cool new ability that I really think is fine. I just think that some of the interactions, Mel being a champion that now has a reflect, she can turn off damage for herself, and then if she's hit with an enemy projectile, she sends it back at them, targeted or otherwise. And there are a couple, they said any ability that is affected by wind wall affects, this reflect. And I said, okay, cool. And then I watched the Vandrel video and watched Mel reflect an Ashe Hawkshot, the vision. And I was like staring at it for a while. And I was like, was Yasuo able to just nullify Hawkshot with the wind wall this time? Like, what is going on? There's several interactions that I'm like, I would not expect that. And I don't like having to tell people, yeah, go watch Vandrel's 30-minute video so that when you're facing Mel, you know which ones reflect back at you, because they don't all make sense to me. Otherwise, personally, I know, hot take, I don't think she's that bad. I think she's going to be another Lux-like person. If you enjoy Lux, she's going to be fun to play. Great, cool, like whatever. I don't play Lux, so I don't care.
The thing about Mel, as someone that's been playing her on the PvE, so to kind of add to Shazbot's point first, I do want to say you don't have to watch all of Vanderreel's video. It is in alphabetical order, so you could just quickly find your champions and see what's reflected, just as a side note.
Oh, hold on. Not entirely, because at the end of the video, after they do Zoe, there's an Annie and a Braum and a few other champions that they threw in afterward. I don't know why. Yeah, at the end, they threw Annie and Braum and other champions. I don't understand it.
Okay, my bad.
And frankly, I don't like for a while there was a difference between dodge and a difference between block. That might still be there, but way back when Pantheon could block an auto attack, and that would have different interactions than if Jax dodged an auto attack with his E. And you'd have to know, if I throw a Draven axe at a Pantheon, do I get the axe back? And I hate those. I like Freak's mission to try to make things uniform, and that doesn't seem to be the case with Mel. And that's my frustration, is that there's these like Hawk Shot, like I guess it technically is a projectile but doesn't do damage. Or what's the other one? Twitch's Venom Casket. If you shield yourself as the casket is going out, it reflects it. But casket hasn't exploded yet. Like, I don't know. It's so strange to me.
When I was watching it with my wife, there were a few things that we thought should have bounced that didn't bounce either.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're right there too.
And so I think that they released the champion into the PvE, and on our last episode, we talked about how Ambessa got nerfed before coming to live, so the PvE did its job. And I hope that the videos done by Vandrel and Admin Anonymous sent us another one. I can't remember who it was by, but same thing, right? They found some of these interactions that were inconsistent, and I hope that the PvE will help sort that out and truly make this a really fun addition to the map.
And go ahead. Riot is really good about listening to community feedback about things like that. They're pretty good about, oh, hey, this doesn't make sense, and we'll fix it. They have people like Freak on the board, and who's not a perfect person, I admit that. But yeah, I'm just hoping that they make things make sense. That's all I want. When I'm playing a game against Mel, I don't want to have to reopen my YouTube video and scroll to my Echo and yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. So the thing about Mel regarding her W that I think's interesting is that it doesn't reflect all the damage that's sent at her. It reflects it as magic damage and is 45 to 70% based on the level. And you're going to max it last because your Q and your E are much more are great tools. Maybe against a skill shot heavy team, you may max W over E, but it just depends on the situation. But because of that, when you're first reflecting at the start of the game, you're only reflecting at 50% damage. And the counter to it is building magic damage, because it's always reflecting magic damage. And it won't be 100% of the damage until Mel has 600 AP.
Wow. That's good to know. Build MR.
Yeah, build MR, exactly.
It's also such a long cooldown that you're right, Xeno. Even at level 5, it's 33 seconds, I think is what I saw. No. It's in the 20s. It's 27 seconds or something.
Yeah, 20 something.
It's such a long cooldown that you gain no benefit from maxing it. You just don't.
Right?
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's definitely a Q max situation. That's where the bulk of her damage and poke comes from. Her Q has a lot of range on it. Not in the sense of the size of the skill shot, because it's almost instant, like a Nasus-y, But in the sense of how much range she has on it, it's kind of crazy how far she can poke you with that.
Yeah, and it's nice to have another Lux-like character. Morgana being another Lux-like, in my opinion. Like her Black Shield is one of those that you need to know the interactions with, but it's a lot more predictable. In fact, you could tie a lot of similarities between Morgana and Mel. But yeah, I think she's going to be a fine champion.
I concur.
A funny thing I saw on social media, because my initial reaction when I saw Mel's W was that's going to be stupid broken. But then someone on social media pointed out I like Mel's W because it's in essence saying, my move is only as BS as your champion is.
True. People need to look in a mirror. People need to make some changes.
All right, everybody. Any other thoughts before we close out our episode? We're coming up on time here.
No, I think Mel is a pretty fun champion. Definitely going to be joining my champion pool. I don't think she's super overtuned like other champions are. I think people are a bit worried. Her ult is going to be really strong in team fights. She's definitely going to be a mid-late game champion, so people should keep that in mind and try to shut her down early.
Yeah.
Very good.
And before you complain about something, like see if it's something that you can solve first. I think people too quickly look to the game guide on the internet instead of trying to solve the puzzle themselves. And afterwards, if you still can't solve it, if it's even after you try to change yourself, then you have the right to complain. I don't care after that. But don't walk into something new and say, "Oh, it's new." Like get an open mind, man. Like it's gonna be fine.
All right, and on that note, everybody, thank you once again for joining us. Shazbot and Zeno, thanks for being here with me every month. Dang it, I did it again.
Oh, yeah, I guess we got to do it every week now.
Oh, yikes.
Yes, we're required to.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the PCP. We'll be back after our next tournament. That will be on January 18th at the new start time of 1 p.m. Pacific time. So it's earlier in the day to make sure we get all our other games. You can find us by searching Progenitor Circuit on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. I was also just informed that we have Blue Sky, so search us out on there if you don't have any of the others. And don't forget to sign up and play at start.gg. You search Progenitor Circuit, and we will see you there.